Hi everyone, my name is Patrick Akio, and if you're interested in personal development, goal setting, as well as mentorship and coaching, this episode is for you. Joining me today is Milan Milanović. He's a CTO, architect, content writer, and a lifelong learner. I'll put all his socials in the description below. Check him out, and with that being said, enjoy the episode. Since we met, I've been seeing your LinkedIn posts pop up here and there, and you mentioned you had a book collection of like 5K books.
Yes.
Really?
I'm avid reader. I like to read very much and learn stuff. And maybe people ask me why, and the answer is very simple. If you want to learn something, there are few possibilities to learn something. Of course, you can learn by doing, you can learn by reading, you can learn by teaching, and there are some other ways. But if you want to learn from someone who is, let's say, very good at something, there are only two possibilities. One possibility is to work directly with that person, and of course, it is very hard to work with some guys who are very famous and good in their job. And the other possibility is to read their books,
Yeah.
because they write their books when they had a lot of knowledge, and probably they had some kind of a call to write this book and to, let's say, publish it for all of us to read. So I found it very valuable, and I spend every day, let's say, a few hours, depending on the day, of course, to read stuff. Of course, I don't read only books; I read some other stuff, and let's say this whole thing with my writing actually started with that, because I like to read.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Yes.
reading that, it's weird, right? Because I agree with what you say. The only way for you to kind of gain their knowledge or what is in their head is to read whatever they wrote down, or like in a different form of content. If they were to create a podcast or a YouTube video, that would be another medium. But for most people, professionals, books are like the medium to go to for them to write down and to pass on to others. Have you also noticed that like a lot of the theoretical knowledge you gain through reading, how do you apply that then in practice? Because I also met a lot of people that know a lot from theory, but when it comes to practice, it's a bit harder to put into practice that theory.
Yes, correct. Well, there are two things. I would say there are two levels of reading which I like, and which I do. The first one is this kind of general reading,
Mm.
like okay, now I like to read about ChatGPT. What is ChatGPT? I just want to be informed,
Yeah.
and then I read articles about this. Maybe I go some kind of a deeper insights about it, and that's one level. And the other level is something which I call intentional learning. So what is this exactly? For example, when I work on something and I work on some kind of a project, and I know I will need this knowledge in next 1, 2, or 3 months,
Yeah.
then I do and take some kind of book articles and read about this. And when I read this, I immediately go and apply this, because this is the best way to let's say retain knowledge. This is one level of using that knowledge. The other level is note taking, which I'm also developed in some I would say nice way, that you can store your knowledge in a proper way, so that you have this knowledge very much accessible in any time later, of course, because knowledge disappear after some time, and you need to have a proper way to find that knowledge very fast, for example, later in few months or few years. And there is a way, of course, how you can build such kind of your personal knowledge base, or notes,
Yeah.
where you can store that knowledge for later usage.
Nice. I like that a lot. I've read about that online, and people call it like a second brain, because your first brain is
Correct.
really good at interpreting and writing it down, but not as much at retaining, which then written form is the best way to do so. How or what works for you when you're organizing your notes? Is that like on a book basis, or what's your system?
Correct. There is a wording which say mind is for having ideas, not for storing them.
Yeah.
You should store ideas, in notes. Yes, actually, I had a few iterations there on building such kind of a knowledge. I started with simple notes application, and then during the years, I built something which is something, as you mentioned, some kind of a second brain, where I have proper, let's say, nodes, and where I build my knowledge in some kind of a clusters of knowledge which are interconnected, and where I can, like some kind of, I see like some kind of a ball, where I can easily rotate that ball and access and find what I want in all of these different topics. For example, in software engineering, but in other topics and fields also.
Interesting. I think I might. Have you written down like an article about that? Because it's very hard for me to visualize like what that would look like in actuality.
No, but I'm thinking to write more. Actually, I wrote one article last summer about my personal organization, where I mentioned also note taking, task list. Also, I mentioned calendar, how I do with files and other. But I did not go in that LinkedIn article in much details there. But I will probably maybe even write a newsletter issue, especially on that topic, how to retain your knowledge, and that you can access it very, very fast in the future.
Nice. I'd love to read that. Now I know you're big on personal growth, but I'm wondering, like, personal growth is so much personalized for a lot of people. I wonder how you kind of built your environment around you in a way that you can focus on personal growth, and how you've optimized for like efficiency and effectiveness as well. Has it to do with like building out your network or setting personal goals, or what works for you? What?
Yes. Actually, that started a long time ago when I started with studies, because as I would say, most of the people, I didn't know what to pursue, what career to pursue, and where to go. Of course, I had some things in mind, but it was just not clear to me where I want to go. And after many years, and let's say, speaking with some people who I admired, let's say, regarding their career or personality, and what they achieved, and of course, after some courses I went, like NLP and some others, I found some answers. Let's say, how you should go and define your, let's say, your call. I would say this, your call, not only career is one point in your call, or let's say your path, or your life path.
Yeah.
And this usually starts first by the need to understand ourselves. This is the key thing which that I saw people lacks. They don't really know what they want. They know that they want something, or maybe someone told them, okay, go in this field or this field. It is good to be there, or because of that and this. But they still feel that maybe this is not for them,
Yeah.
or maybe they are on the wrong path. And usually this is true. When you have this internal feeling that you are not on the good path, that's probably it. And this is one layer of that. And the key is, let's say, to find this, because this must be deeply rooted in your personal, let's say, values.
Yeah.
And your personal drivers. Because if it is not rooted in your personal values, you will just not get there, or not get there in a proper way, like it should be.
Yeah.
And let's say this is the first step. You need to find out how to find your real call. And there is a good concept, a Japanese concept called Ikigai, which I like very much, which says that you should do something you are good at, you love to do, that the world needs, and you will be paid for.
Yeah.
So this is some kind of intersection of these four things, and I like this very much. But we can also simplify this thing. By when people come to me to my let's say mentoring sessions, and when we try to figure this out, I just ask them what drives you, what energizes you, when you feel good,
Yeah.
after which kind of activity. If you are feeling good after some kind of activity, this is your call, probably.
Interesting. I like that a lot. I mean, Ikigai, I know a little bit of Japanese. I think it's like the way of living, something like that.
Yes,
That's how it
yes.
translates. Yeah, but that's like, for me, especially early on, that was one of the hardest things to do, figuring out what I actually wanted to do. Because also, I thought that it would be a decision and then I would do that for the rest of my like adult life, I guess. And I'm really happy that now that I've had a little bit more work experience under my belt, that that is not the case, right? You can make a decision now and you can pivot later towards new learnings and towards a new path based on what you now enjoy. Because if you were to ask me years back, 2 years ago, I would have said, oh, I want to grow into a product owner and a scrum master role. And if you were to ask me now, I'm thinking more engineering manager or developer advocate because my perspective has changed completely based on the experience that I've had. But still, early on, I tried a lot of things. I tried whatever I could do, as much experience as possible, because I'm not like you. I don't read a lot. So for me, the experience was for me the most valuable. I learned a lot through experiencing, and I also tried to be in an environment where I could experience the most. Because then I could say, okay, I like these things and I don't like these things. So then I gravitate towards what I like and stay away from what I don't like, basically. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. I understand, and this is normal. There are two schools there. There is one school which say, okay, you should not change your mind.
Mm.
Like it is bad to change your mind. But the other school say, yes, you can and you should change your mind, and this is completely fine because you gain new insights, as you said.
Yeah.
You learn this thing, you learn this thing, but. These things can change, but the values are something which are inside you all your life, and they don't change. So this all of these things can be different, but they must still be anchored in your values. So every path you take should be anchored in those values. If it is not, you will not feel good
Yeah.
by doing this.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, for me, personal development has a lot to do with also the environment you're in, right? Because you can be in an environment where it's completely like people advocate for personal development. They give you time and space to do so, even resources in money and trainings. And then you can just flourish and try out a lot of things. But also, not every environment is the same. There are some environments where you're kind of feeling stuck, where maybe the hierarchy is a bit bigger than other organizations, and it's harder to move upwards or even lateral or horizontal. And you have the feeling of being stuck, right? And with that feeling in mind, it's then very hard to focus also on personal development. With your
Correct.
experience and kind of your past history, how have you kind of cultivated this environment around you that allows you to focus on personal development?
Yes, this is the good thing you said, because this is something that people should ask on when they are on interviews.
Mm.
How this company is helping you grow in that position. Do they have some kind of education budget? Do they actually invest in you or
Yeah.
not? Because if not, maybe this is not the company you want to work for.
Yeah.
And I also had luck maybe to work for such companies that had such kind of culture that enable you to have to let's say push you to have a growth mindset,
Yeah.
to constantly push you forward and not let's say backward, or to be on the place. And um, also what is here important is that when you find your call, you also need to have goals. I also saw many times people don't have goals,
Mm.
and this is really a problem, because when you don't have goal, you will probably get nowhere.
Mm.
It's like driving a car and your destination is unknown. So you must have some kind of goals, and when I say goals, I also saw some goals which are not or let's say not real or not realistic.
Okay.
For example, people say, okay, I will do something in May, or I will do something this year.
Yeah.
And this will probably not happen. Because when you define goal, you need to define them in a way that they could be achieved. And one of possibilities to define such goals are those SMART goals, where you need to have that your goal is SMART. What this means, it means that it is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So, for example, when I say I will write a book on some topics this year,
Yeah.
this is, well, I say, just a goal which probably will not be fulfilled. But if I say, okay, I need to write a book because I want this to do very much, and I will write this book until September by writing 2,000, let's say, words every week.
Yeah.
And then this is SMART goal. I know that I can focus today on something that will help me to achieve my goal until September, for example.
Yeah.
And this is much more realistic and will be possible to achieve.
Yeah, you've made it immediately actionable, because if you say, I want to write this book by then and then, you can already in your head work back because of the date what you need to do and if that's realistic or not, and otherwise adjust your milestone, I guess, and your goal in that way. And then work towards it incrementally, right? Because especially a book, it's not going to happen overnight. You need continuous process, and you need to review what you've written, and you need to be happy at some point with what you've written and move on to the next stop. And I think, yeah, you need something of a structured way to do that. For me, though, especially early on, I didn't write down my goals. I always had them in my head. And because I was very much focused on like growing as fast as possible, they were also short-term goals usually. And I didn't ask myself where I would see myself in 5 years, because for me, 5 years was a really, really long time. So I couldn't even imagine what I was going to do in 5 years. So there were always short-term goals. I didn't necessarily write them down, which also meant sometimes I was working on multiple goals at the same time, and then focusing is a bit hard. But that's where I started off. And then actually I experimented with this last year, where I said at the beginning of the year, I had so much work on my plate that I had to say no to a bunch of things. And I went back and I said, okay, these are the things I'm going to focus on for the year, right? I want to do a full year of podcast episodes, which means 52, which means that every week we're going to release something new. I said I want to give 3 trainings in a programming language I feel good at, just to get some training experience under my belt. I had never done that. And I said I want to mentor and coach 2 people on a bi-weekly basis. Those were my goals. I thought, let me not start off with too many of them. I'm going to start with these in mind, and I'm going to try and figure out if this works for me. And I did 2 out of 3. Like the coaching and mentoring, it didn't happen. I didn't push hard enough for that. I had too much on my plate still with the things I had written down and day-to-day work. But I was really happy with that. At the end of the year, I could say, okay, this is what I wrote down. This is what I did. But then I was like, okay, what about next year? And now I have goals in my mind, but for some reason I haven't written them down. I thought more of the same or different things, and there's so many options. I think it's really hard to pick also. And with that in mind, I think it's really important to have a conversation with someone that has kind of your best interest at heart and that can kind of guide you through this path of setting goals and achieving them. Is that someone you also have in your personal network? Like, do you have coaches or mentors that you talk to on a regular basis?
Yes. I have both, but first to say the thing you mentioned about this is some kind of a question you get at interviews. Where are you going to be in 5 years?
I hate it.
A lot of people hate this, but actually it's a very good question, because this question can be answered only by most successful people, because who knows exact let's say point in the future they want to go. This is very, very strong thing.
Yeah.
Because you then can focus all of your efforts and plans and goals toward this one effort. But let's say it doesn't need to be a concrete, let's say, thing like I want to achieve this, but it should be some kind of outcome. I want to be, for example, the best tech podcast in the world.
Yeah.
in 5 years, or the podcast with the most followers, subscribers, or whatever.
Sure.
And if this is your goal in 5 years, then you can go back and create your, let's say, yearly goals and all other things that will support you on that path. And yes, when you mention this, of course, I had, let's say, I had mentors and coaches too. Maybe people don't really understand the difference between these two, because it is different.
Yeah.
Mentor and the coach is not the same thing. How I had multiple mentors and coaches in my life, some internal, like in my company, some external ones. And when I go to search for mentors is when I find a skill that I lack, and I needed, let's say, help from someone to help me grow in that skill. And this was, let's say, the first case when I needed, or let's say, mentor and or the coach. And or the second let's say, time I wanted to is when I saw someone who was my role model. Like, this guy was 3 to 5 years in front of me,
Yeah.
and I want to be like that guy. And then I approached him and asked, can you be, let's say, my mentor? I want to go through your path you went to. And let's say, those are two let's say, topics when I search for mentors or coaches. Yes.
Interesting. And what was your process with them when they said yes, or if they said yes? Did you have like a weekly conversation, bi-weekly, monthly? Like, what is the rhythm? And then also, what did you discuss in those?
Yes, I mean, it all starts first with the initial contact,
Yeah.
Because some people maybe want to help you, but they don't have time. Especially, you usually select someone who is very, very good or very successful, and they don't have time for that. And then you need to figure out how they will work together.
Yeah.
And of course, it all starts with this question. You made the initial call, and when you have a green light, of course, from the person, and you define objective. So what is our objective on this mentoring or coaching, and how long it will take us to get there, and what will be, let's say, the success of this mentoring.
Yeah.
And when we define those three things, then we can go, let's say, to mentoring process, where we define our, let's say, meeting cadence, or all any other structure, how we will structure that, let's say, mentoring or coaching sessions in the future.
Yeah. Interesting. I think I love that you went to your role models, right? Because I think it's very hard when someone says, what do you want to do, or what do you want to be? But if you look at someone and their experience and maybe their past history, and you're like, well, I don't know exactly, but I would like to do what this guy has achieved, then they can kind of help you towards that path, right? In setting goals and seeing what's achievable and what they've experienced. They can there share with you for your own perspective. And you're never going to be a carbon copy, because everyone is different and has their own way. But to have a role model in that way to guide you, I think that's very concrete and very valuable for your personal learning journey. How many people do you have in kind of a coaching or mentor role? Like, is it always one person? Is it multiple people at the same time? What's your structure?
Currently, in my role.
Yeah.
I currently I do, let's say, I'm engineering manager also for my team, and I have like 10 people, and I have from time to time some external people that I let's say, do this kind of a mentoring or coaching sessions.
Yeah. And are you then also a mentee, or like a person that gets coached by other people?
Yes. Let's say in the last 10 or 15 years, I, let's say, constantly had some kind of a mentor or coach in my life.
Nice.
Because this is very good. For example, if this guy is inside your company, he will probably become not only your mentor but also your sponsor, because this guy can also support you tomorrow. If you need some kind of a support, you will, let's say, it's also one part of networking.
Yeah.
With him, and maybe with his contacts. And he can also maybe push you in your career, maybe further away instead that you would do without him. And so sometimes I could not find, let's say, internal mentors, so I asked for external mentors, especially those ones who are non-technical.
Yeah.
So I wanted to develop in some non-technical soft skills, and then I go and searched for some external coaches who helped me to develop in some other skills which are, let's say, which I could not find internally. Yeah.
Yeah. Why specifically soft skills and like non-technical skills? Did you think that like with the goal setting and the structure that you had, the technical skills you nailed and therefore you sought maybe the soft skills, or why was that decision there?
Yes. Well, I found, for example, that when you are some kind of a senior or a lead, tech lead level, you then start to work more with people than with let's say technical stuff,
Yeah.
with architecture, coding, and etc. etc. Working with stakeholders, writing, speaking, and all other stuff, and then you usually we from let's say this technical field who like were completely for years in coding and looked only at code mostly. We don't have let's say good skills for that kind of progress later to let's say principal level to and after to maybe some kind of other levels where you want to be. So some kind of coaching is needed there to help you how to deal with these issues you didn't have let's say opportunity maybe to do in your career before that.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't know that early on. Like I thought technical problems were interesting. I thought they were the hardest component, but the more experience I had and the more kind of your sphere of influence grows, you realize that actually some of the technical decisions are hard, yes, but still most of it can be easier. The hardest part is usually dealing with people, convincing people, talking to people, right? Gaining that level of empathy to do this together, collaborating, cooperating, teamwork. Like it's a lot having to do with people. And I so didn't expect that going into this field. I thought I would more so code all day long. But if I'm really solving problems, usually I'm talking to a lot of people and getting people aligned. And then the coding part is like an afterthought because we're already aligned. We just have to do it. And then it gets done faster. Like it's such a contrast. So yeah, I do realize that soft skills are needed there for sure.
Yes, especially from that this lead or staff level, those skills are actually more important than technical skills. And if you lack those skills, you will probably be stuck somewhere there, and you could not progress because then you need to be the greatest architects are the best communicators.
Yeah, right.
So they know how to communicate. They communicate a lot. They know how to write, how to speak, and this is what differs actually those great ones from the others.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, looking into your past, you started out as a software engineer, and I know you've had architect roles, engineering manager roles, and now you're CTO as well. Like, were those all kind of goals you set out for yourself to reach out and to then deliberately work back? For example, if I want to be a CTO in 5 years, deliberately work back what needs to be done. Did you do it in that way, goal with your goal specifically in mind, or can you walk us through how you got those roles in the first place?
Yes, actually, let's say this as we talked at the start of our meeting. Those my mind changed also a bit. Let's say I started my career in one company and went through from a junior engineer to a head of engineering.
Yeah.
And then again, after this period of working with people, with projects, with a lot of stuff, there is this drive inside of me is that I like very much technical stuff. I like to code. I like to. I just like to be technical in some kind of a way. And when you go to this level of like head of engineering of or there, you actually detach yourself a lot, from those stuff. And there are some companies that allow you to be still technical, but there are some others that doesn't allow you this. You don't have time. I mean, they would allow you, but you don't have time. And then after a few years of doing this, my let's say my drive to still be in this field, especially in the last 10 years when all of these good things happened in this let's say field of technology, software engineering happened. I just wanted to be, hands-on on some of those stuff,
Yeah.
not just to be like a viewer of this stuff, which are going besides me. So I then jumped again in that train to again code, work with let's say architecture, work with people on projects, and I went through this path until, let's say, now where I'm CTO, but I'm still very very technical. I still now I managed to find time to still to do architecture, to code, and do all of this stuff which I really like to do, but also to work with people and other, let's say, more strategic stuff which this role needs to do.
Interesting. I love that. Like it's head of engineering is a different role, right? You're more of a people manager and you have people responsibilities. And not everyone likes that, especially if you come from a technical background. Like in bigger organizations, the best software engineer might be pushed to that position just because they're the best software engineer, but it is a completely different role. Yes, you have your previous experience and you take that with you, but those people responsibilities, like you need to either love it or hate it. And you can be somewhere in between and you can have some responsibilities. But it doesn't necessarily mean that when you're a great software engineer, you're also going to be a great head of engineering. They're different roles, and you need to figure out if that is for you. And when you have the opportunity to do so, you can then learn if it is actually for you. And if not, you can pivot and grow and find that sweet spot that you're in now. So I think that's awesome that you've found it. That's really cool.
Yes. I mean, I just like to be somehow attached to technical world, because if you are just let's say reading this in newspapers and you are like in this IT field, it's for me it's too much detached from the reality, and in this way I am still hands on, but I can also use my experience and knowledge to influence and work on other, let's say, levels of business, as I said, from business to strategy, working with people, and all other stuff which are normal in one kind of a company.
Nice. Previously, you laid out that you like the question of like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I can see the way you explained it, how it makes sense, right? If you set a really good goal for yourself, or let's say a goal which seems unachievable, you can still calculate and see what needs to be done and then readjust it. Do you have like a goal, a 5-year goal plan with us, or that you could share with us as well? Or what are your personal goals now, for example?
Yes. Mike, I always have that plan for 5 years, and I also have plan for 10 years.
Wow.
But I cannot share all of the plans because some plans are strongly attached with the company where I'm working now, and let's say, my goals are very, let's say, those mid-term goals are very much aligned with this company where I'm working now from last summer, and we are building one great product, and let's say I'm very much bound to the success, let's say, of that product.
Yeah.
And everything that will go with it in the next few years, for example.
Yeah, interesting. I've also seen, and I'm wondering what your thought is on this, that people write down goals and even in performance reviews then judge those goals, but those goals are more based on output. Let's say I can say, oh, I want to be more visible in the community, or I want to build my network, or I want to knowledge share based on the writing that I do. That can be a goal, right? And you can say, oh, I want to be the best writer in X amount of years. Or you can do that quantitatively. You can say, oh, I want to write 3 blog posts. But in performance reviews, if that's then used against you, I think it's a bit of a weird kind of way to do it. Because I think performance reviews and even leadership should inspire, right? They shouldn't look at your outcomes and judge you based on that. They should inspire you to be the best you can be. And then your output flows through that. So when I see some people really focus on output, for example, 3 blog posts a year or X amount of things a year, and use that for a performance review, I think that's not a great way of doing it. I think more so you should inspire the people that you're with or the people that are in your team to do their best. And then whatever output comes out of that, first of all, it's going to be their output. So they're going to love it because they chose to do so, instead of having some kind of abstract kind of KPI to do that. And it's going to be a better way of working, I feel like, a more sustainable way. Have you seen that as well in kind of input and output when it comes to KPIs and goals?
Yes, yes. This is now with this we are returning back to our, let's say, start of the story,
Yeah.
with this your mission and values you have, because you should always find this ikigai. So what is actually something you like to do? And maybe I can tell my story about this LinkedIn and how I went through this where I'm today. Let's say I'm one of the tech influencers on that network, but also on some other places. It was not a plan, actually.
Okay.
It is something that I liked to do.
Yeah.
And let's say the only thing that changed is that I started to do more of that. And that's it. Because I like to, what I find out is the thing you mentioned also, that I found that people don't like to read.
Yeah.
And I like to read. And then I saw, when I read, I tend to share some, let's say, good stuff with people. And I did this for a long time inside my company.
Yeah.
And then someone said to me one day, like, okay, I think it's good that you share this knowledge and share this stuff with us. Why don't you do this outside? Like on some networks, on blog posts. And then I started, let's say, to do this bit by bit, and I find out that people very much like this. There were strong reactions, a lot of likes and reposts and everything. And of course, during this time, I tried to be, let's say, more to write more in the way that people like to read. Not just in a way how I like to present things.
Yeah.
And this is a win-win situation for everyone, because I like to write, I like to share my knowledge, people like to read, I like to see digested things, from maybe some big books or big articles or scientific papers. And I think it's a win-win for everyone. And still I'm enjoying this because I would anyway do this. So if I stop tomorrow to share this thing, I would still read, I will still take my notes, I will still enjoy this stuff, maybe share with my friends or with my people in my company. But this is the thing that I like to do, and we are again at the start of our story. Just do what you like to do, and you will be successful for sure in that thing.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Like, if you didn't like what you were doing, it was not going to be sustainable, right? You can do it maybe for a year, maybe longer, like work ethic and dedication wise, but at some point you're going to be fed up, you're going to burn out, you're never going to want to do it again. The only reason you can do what you're doing is because you love what you're doing. Like that is the
Absolutely.
only reason. And I love that you found your drive and your passion in that, right? And you can do more of, and even do that on an external view. Because I mean, we've only been connected for like 2 or 3 weeks. I love your stuff on LinkedIn. It pops by, it's digested, like it's solid content. And as you know, I don't love reading. So the fact that I'm reading those, like for me, it has value, and therefore I'm reading it.
Yes, and the thing is, we are in this field of software engineering and other, let's say, attached fields. It is too dense. There is too much stuff happening, and there is so much thing. And people, they work, they don't have time to go and check and read articles, books, but there are some really good stuff there, and which are really gold. And I like to take this thing and, let's say, to digest it a bit and put it, let's say, in the front of people, because as you said, there is some books like 300 pages, but the author actually could write this also in 50 or 100 pages.
Yeah.
Because when you write a book, you cannot write 50 pages. and people also, I also wrote last week how to read books, one article. You need to know how to read books properly, how to gain this knowledge in a proper way, to go straight to the point, not to lose your time reading everything. And when you find this gold, let's say, in the book, I mean, there's only one next step to share with people, and people are really grateful for that, because you took this and shared this one gold from that book, or one wisdom, or one knowledge, or one action item they can do, and they really appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. So, I mean, I talked to Luca Rossi and he has his newsletter, refactoring.club. And
Yes.
also in this conversation now, I'm thinking like, yes, I've said I don't read much, but the skill of reading, digesting, and then like condensing that information, I see that as a skill. And I think that
Yes.
skill could be very valuable for me, but also for my peers. Doesn't matter if they're technical or from an adjacent, like,
Correct.
how do you say that? Adjacent field, I guess. I think the skill of condensing information and putting it out there is kind of a golden nugget, as you mentioned. I think that's very valuable. Would you recommend
Correct.
people try that out and try and condense information and then sharing it internally or externally? Doesn't really matter, because I'm curious as to what you've learned through doing that.
You mean through reading?
Through condensing that information in
Uh-huh.
kind of maybe I would call it a
Yes.
summary, I guess.
Um, yes. Actually, as I thought, as I said, I needed that kind of a system because when I read something,
Yeah.
when I approach something to learn, I need to condense this to take it to my notes.
Mm.
And this process, let's say condensing to my notes, was already there. So I needed to, I didn't need it to, let's say, to think about this much.
Yeah.
But then, of course, I just needed one more step. Okay, it is in my notes. And then I just need maybe to, let's say, maybe to refine it a bit, maybe to format it a bit, and then push it to some kind of, let's say, social network or somewhere to blog post or whatever.
Yeah, interesting. My notes are horrible. My notes are so cluttered. Like I feel like I need an organized system. That's why I'm looking forward to the article you're gonna write. But
Yes.
like I've written down my notes and even in different conversations that I have or work contexts, and I've always written them down in the most basic variant of a note program on my laptop. And now I've heard really good stuff about stuff like Notion and different applications. I think there's one which escapes me, but the name, like, I'll probably put it in the show notes. But there's different tools that you can organize your notes and make graphs and like download plugins and stuff to organize whatever your second brain needs to look like. But for me, my sunken cost in the notes that I've already taken and to migrate that to a different tool, I see such an uphill battle that I've never even started. Like I just keep going with the note taking that I've done, and I don't really want to even think about migrating, but I think it can be very valuable for me to do so. So at some point I'm gonna have to make a decision.
Yes, it is a steep curve, but it would, let's say, give you a lot of benefits in the future because I also had similar situation. I had the notes in like one note taking app.
Yeah.
I had in files. I had in to do app, and I have it on paper. And then when I needed to find somewhere, I knew I have it somewhere, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
And then I mean, it doesn't mean nothing, and then you need to sit to create this system for you that will work. And of course the tool is not important. The system is important, how you do this, how you store, and how you let's say find this knowledge later in the efficient manner. And then when you build such kind of a system, it will gain you much benefits in the future. And the thing you said, uh, you experience it the same like I experienced it, and maybe a lot of people. And this is the thing why I will, let's say, prepare text on that and how to build this kind of a thing. Of course, people can read this thing, this book, Building a Second Brain from Tiago Forte, and all other, let's say, articles around this to understand about how to start in this field. But this can be also a bit simpler. Of course, you always adjust it to your personal preferences and way of work, and to that it is not a big burden to you, but it's still very much useful.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think I'm gonna edit this episode, I'm gonna re-listen to it, and then I'm probably gonna feel inspired enough to take that step. Yeah, I've really
So
enjoyed our conversation, Milan, talking about personal goals, mentorship, coaching, and even your wisdoms with condensing information and sharing that. Is there anything you still want to share with our audience before we leave off?
Yeah, there are two more things maybe I would like to mention when talking about goals. Maybe we did not mention here. It is fine to have goals, but there is another more important things if people want to achieve something. It's to build systems.
Mm.
Actually, systems are much better than goals. And what this means is that we should, like this example of the book I mentioned to you, how to transfer your goal to be your habit. And you probably know for this book about habits from James Clear, Atomic Habits, and I find this very, very much important to have, let's say, to make a habit from something you want to achieve. And when you make it a habit, this then you know you are on the really good path. Only some kind of goals which are written there or here, they will probably don't mean nothing. Even if they are smart goals,
Yeah.
still they could mean nothing. If you make a habit from them, then it's great. And of course, there is separate topic of productivity techniques. I write a lot about this. Eisenhower technique, Pomodoro technique, time boxing, getting things done, and all other techniques that you can use in your daily life that could support you in building this habit. And with this habit, that habit will get you to that you fulfill your goals in the future.
Yeah, I like that addition a lot, right? Writing things down, making things smart is one thing. And at some point, you actually have to act, and making it as easy as possible for yourself in finding habits that work for you. I think that's the only way to sustainably keep achieving goals, right? Because you can do it once, you can do it twice. But the real art, I feel like, is doing it consistently over and over again. I love that
Yes,
addition.
they said consistency beats motivation every time. So this is very, very much true.
Yeah, I absolutely stand by that. Cool. We're going to round it off here, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Milan Milanović, our guest, I'm going to put all his socials in the description below. Check him out. Let him know you came from our show. And with that being said, thank you for listening. We'll see you on the next one.